The latest season of Man into the Wild begins. The bull girl hunts a giant lizard with her bare hands to make sure his teammates successfully eat delicious barbecue, and found a nest of eggs in the haystack. Boil the eggs in an iron pan. My teammates couldn't stop eating. 2 high men to repay her. A bamboo raft was made. Pushed her 10 kilometers to evacuate. The location of this challenge is the wilderness of Colombia. The jungle is thick here. Hot weather and heavy rain. Lachio and the beast are both little karami. An army of tens of billions of mosquitoes will kill you. Julia is a 20-year-old woman. This is her second challenge. The last time she did a 14-day fan survival challenge. This time for the 21-day challenge. Her mother is also a great athlete. I did 40 days of survival with Jeff and Matt. The challenge of making so much money. I would definitely recommend my daughter to attend. Both mother and daughter alone make more than $200,000 a year. Julia only has to complete the 21-day challenge. Participate in the 40-day survival challenge. The second contestant, Frank, he was also a successful contestant in the 14-day fan challenge last season. He was living on a desert island with a young woman. Many small animals were caught with these hands. $100,000 in 14 days gave him a boost of confidence. So I'm here again to get paid. The third contestant, Scott, he once completed a 14-day fan challenge in South Africa. Teammates can't stand him stuffing their mouths. So he opted out of the competition. He took it all by himself to the end. So this time he took part in the challenge again, hoping to get more bonuses. 2 middle-aged men and a young girl survive in the wilderness. It's really exciting to think about. You can't say gringos are open-minded. Julia is meeting Frank soon. The two made a simple match. Just as they were getting to know each other. There's Scotty the high guy. This surprised Julia and Frank. There's not enough food for 2 high men and 1 girl. Because it's a fan comeback challenge. In order to reduce the difficulty. So we added 1 more person to the race. It's obviously a gift. Frank brought a machete. Julia brought her paracord. Scott brought mosquito nets. And the show's iron pot and fire rod. They need to walk to a water source 3 kilometers away to survive. Frank thinks there will be a lot of resources there. Opening day. On the way, Julia finally broke the news about her mother. The 2 high men were very surprised. Because her mother is a strong player. One thing Julia doesn't have is a connection. I was gonna eat this girl. This is gonna have to be a little more discreet. It was a little after 1 p.m. They came to the position of this little pool. But there is no suitable location for a shelter. They searched along the stream. Finally, I saw a clearing. They decided to build a shelter here. But Julia's worried about flash floods. Frank thinks it's nice here. I just want to build a shelter here. The sun will set soon. They don't have a choice. Frank suggested building a large A shelter. This kind of shelter is very simple. And it's good for drainage. Scott felt very thirsty. Can't wait to start a fire and drink raw water. His teammates will not approve of his approach. But Scott thinks high risk has high rewards. The 3 work together to build a framework. All 3 have one thing in common. It's all overconfidence. Maybe the previous 14-day challenge was too easy for them. There is strength in numbers. Shelters were quickly set up. At night, their shelter isn't ready yet. I didn't even sleep under a mosquito net. Scott wasn't feeling well in the middle of the night. He started having diarrhea. Drink raw water during the day. Now you're in for a trick. Time to the next day. This morning, Scott still has diarrhea. Squat on a rock and shit all day. It seems that the price of drinking raw water is high. Frank saw his teammate having diarrhea. I think it's like some kind of fun trying to survive. No one dares to drink raw water now. You have to boil it before you drink it. After breakfast, they cut down bamboo to make water filtration systems. Frank and Julia are cutting down bamboo. There are many mosquitoes in the bamboo forest. They were covered in bites. It was not easy to collect the thick roots of bamboo. Split the bamboo in half, then put charcoal and sand in it. The filtered water is thus drinkable. They save time in boiling water. Drink the filtered water directly. It was a little after 4 in the afternoon. A light rain began to fall. They quickly began to collect palm leaves. The roof of the shelter was hastily repaired. The sky thundered in the middle of the night. A heavy rain is coming. They were afraid that the fire would get wet from the rain. Time came to the 3rd day. Scott is feeling a lot better today. More than the water filter my team made yesterday. Otherwise, they'd have mummified him. The shelter is moving very slowly. It's only half done. Frank thought we had to get it set up as soon as possible. They need to find more material to keep out the rain. There are rocks everywhere. It was very difficult to walk. Through the joint efforts of several people, a shelter was finally built. With this shelter, they are no longer afraid of storms. But there are still many gaps in the roof. Put excess leaves on the roof. Prevents the top from dripping. I feel a lot safer with the shelter. At night they slept around the fire. They wouldn't dare touch the daughter of a connected family. Time came to the 4th day. The ground was covered with little stones. They have a terrible time sleeping at night. So today I decided to make a comfortable mattress with leaves. Many people make things very slow. 3 days and no food. First they sorted out the location of the fire. And then a sign where everyone sleeps. They use branches of palm leaves as mattresses. It's a comfortable bed to sleep in, but you need a lot of palm leaves. Scott felt very comfortable lying down. This is just the mattress they need. Now they have beds and shelter. It's not dark yet. A couple of high rollers in the water. And Julia caught a giant lizard. His teammates were stunned. This woman is not ordinary. Julia was thrilled with her first successful hunt. This lizard is enough to feed them. There's a pound of meat left after that. Roast the meat on a stick. It was a very good dinner today. Soon they were enjoying the roast. Everyone can't stop eating. Time came to the 5th day. Julia caught the lizard yesterday. Today he's going hunting to prove himself. Frank found many birds nearby. If we can catch them, we'll have plenty to eat and drink. Frank found a lot of coconuts on the rock. There's plenty of coconut water in there. These coconut shells can be used to make cups. Frank had a big day. My teammates are lying dead in the shelter. Frank cut coconuts with a knife. My teammates are looking at me. The coconut is not big, but it produces a lot of coconut water. Everyone tasted the sweet drink. The coconut meat is still very fresh. After 3 days of starvation, I finally got something to eat. Hi Guy does not consciously dance up enchanting body posture. Time came to the 6th day. They are fed up with coconuts. Frank wants to catch a wild pigeon to taste. He used to make bird traps. This time he wanted to catch the bird in the same way. He took out a string, then bind the 2 sticks. It's fixed by inserting resin in the middle. It's kind of like building a pyramid. Looks simple enough. Scott thought he could do the same. Julia doesn't give up. Suddenly everyone started making bird traps. Soon they made several bird traps. If I can catch something, that would make for a roast dinner. Whether it works or not is another matter. It's already been made. Frank took the bird catcher to the open spot. There are bird traps set up here. Scott picked a spot too. He's gonna lay a hunting trap, too. It looks pretty good. Julia thinks many people work fast. Everyone works very hard. Let's hope we catch some dumb birds. The time came to the 7th day. Scott arrived early in the morning to inspect the bird traps. None of them triggered. Triggers don't catch anything. It's been a few days since I last ate a lizard. Today is another day of starvation. The time came to the 8th day. The trap is still not fruitful. Julia is desperate to eat. Scott saw many fish in the stream, although they are small fish. But they still want to start the fishing program. They took out mosquito nets to make fishing tools. 2 people with mosquito nets in the water. But no fish were caught. It's all about splashing around with girls. Scott wants to catch a lot of fish to get a second look at him, but it didn't turn out the way he thought. The time came to the 9th day. Their muscles are already sore. Scott suggested leaving and looking for resources elsewhere. Teammates think it takes a lot of energy. If you can't find food, they may not make it to day 21. Frank found a lot of coconuts. Julia caught a lizard. Scott was the only one who didn't contribute. This high guy really wants to prove himself, so he's been brainwashing 2 of his teammates. Well, I guess we can blame the road. Good thing my teammates don't hurt my face either. Finally, they all agreed to explore the distance together. 3 high men trying to cross this hill, though the mountains are high, but they do it so they can find food. Embark on a treasure hunt. They didn't see any fruit along the way. The mountain path is very steep. Frankie, open the way. He was beginning to regret it. I feel like I've been lied to. The more I walk, the more I lose confidence. Scott, to prove himself, grabbed 2 of his teammates with him. When I realized something was wrong, Julia and Frank have decided not to go, leaving Scott here all by himself. He wants to contribute right now anyway. It would be embarrassing. The other 2 are wasting their time in the shelter. Frank picks up a shrimp shell. He thinks there might really be a lot of resources nearby. Scott had been on the mountain for a long time, but nothing came of it. It's mid-afternoon. Julie is worried about Scott. I wonder if this high guy is dead. Suddenly here again. Hi is still alive, but you didn't get anything today. Fortunately, Frank left early. It's a waste of energy like Scott. It's really gonna hurt. Time came to the 11th day. Scott was already feeling very tired. Only Frank and Julia are in good shape. Frank thinks he wasted a lot of energy to see them so bored. I don't know how to explain it for a moment. You know, Frank cut many branches. He wants to make a fish basket to catch fish. This high guy's hands are all right. The others are basically lying dead. He made a frame, then let Scott weave it to perfection. Otherwise, it would be a disaster if you said you had to go to the mountain to prove yourself. Fortunately, he was obedient, very carefully knitting fish baskets. Soon he had woven a fish basket. They took the fish basket to the stream, then put the basket in the water. In the evening, the sky suddenly began to rain heavily. They didn't make a difference in the shelter, but their shelter is by the stream. It rained harder and harder in the middle of the night. Their shelter was soon flooded. This is the way it's going. There is a strong possibility of flooding. They dare not sleep at all. Keep an eye on the water's rise. Time came to day 12. Frank sat on the rock early in the morning and watched the water level. The water has dropped a lot now. The water rose very high when it rained last night. What if it rains hard next time? So they talked about moving to another place. They chose a high place on the rock. This position looks dry. They want to build a shelter here. They checked the fish baskets before moving. All that comes out is leaves. Julia felt disappointed. You don't just do what everybody does. You have to see if there are any fish in the water. The time came to the 14th day. If it's a fan challenge, they can evacuate today. but this is a 21-day challenge. They need to hold out for another 7 days. These guys haven't eaten in 9 days. It's 3 monks with no water. Everyone's wasting their time in the shelter. The 3 men split up to look for food nearby. They were just looking around. It's like picking up trash. To put it mildly, they're exploring for food. It's a bad word for picking up trash in the field. Frank sees a spicy strip. When he picked up the stone, noticed the lecheo was gone. This lecheo is very big. It's a roast dinner for Frank. Julia said she would hold on, because her mother was her role model. I didn't know her mother was a sleeper. Scott found a palm tree. The heart of the tree is edible. He tried to cut down palm trees. The tree doesn't look big, but Scott was desperate to prove himself. He carried the heart of the tree back to the shelter. Frank was very excited to see it, because the heart of the tree can replenish a lot of carbon. Each held a piece of the heart of the tree and ate it. This meal has given them something to keep going. The time came to day 16. 3 high people are eating and wasting time in the shelter. There's no sex and no show effects. Watching the full video is really boring. It's only fun to watch my video commentary. Please give my video a thumbs up. I sent these 3 high men to the sky. Suddenly they heard a noise outside the shelter. A loud noise interrupted their chat. Scott was scared out of his pants. It turned out that a giant lizard had fallen out of a tree. When Julia was there, the lizard took off. 3 hippies looking for that lizard. The fat just got out of my mouth. No one who's high is willing. The time came to day 19. They pick up garbage every day. But the gains were modest. Scott finally remembered his bird trap, checking for traps with nothing to do. But these traps simply don't work. The bait was still there the whole time. But this high has never given up on proving himself. He looked around the neighborhood. A startling discovery was soon made. It's a nest of eggs with blood from thousands of years. But this guy says it's an egg. He collected 7 eggs. Stealing someone's home. Suddenly I feel like I'm not a thing. Kept saying thanks for the eggs on the way. Scott took the eggs back to the shelter. Julia was excited at the sight of so many eggs. Such a patch. I don't think anyone could scream her ass off tonight. These eggs are the second protein meal after the lizards. Frank's mouth watered when he saw it. And Julia's been holding it in her hand instead of cooking it. It's like being suspended. Julia put the eggs one by one into the iron pan. I'm kind of speechless anyway. Scott is very happy today, because he's finally proven what he can do. Soon the eggs were cooked. These are like quail eggs. It could have been eaten in one bite, but it's just a few bites. They never had such delicious eggs anyway. Scott is a good high ass. Pride led them to bring a meal. Success keeps your teammates alive for a few more days. Time came to the 20th day. Tomorrow is the day to evacuate. These high people have been in shelters for, like, 21 days. When there was nothing to do, I pulled out a map. What else do you plan to take with you? What else are you gonna get besides the show crew? I wonder what they're up to. Knitting ropes in the shelter. A wasted day. They weave thousands of meters of rope. Scott also made a straw rope basket. These high people are so boring. The basket is pretty, though, but what's the use? At night, the sky began to rain heavily. I couldn't get a good night's sleep before I left. Everyone is worried about the storm tonight, but it doesn't matter. Even if you don't sleep, I'm leaving town tomorrow anyway. Tonight's water is soaking straight into the shelter. They left the shelter. The heavy rain was much heavier than they had expected. Even if there's no home left, they still laugh happily. The water rises very fast. They were forced up the mountain to shelter from the rain. You grow yarn on a rainy day. Abominable. I can't believe they actually gave birth to it. I really don't give a shit about this wilderness. They make me look bad. Make the owners of my entire neighborhood look bad. Time came to day 21. Today is evacuation day. Last night was rough, but today is a good day. They're about to receive a $100,000 prize. Put out the fire before you leave. I didn't sleep last night, but Frank was still feeling good. They returned to their shelter. This whole place was soaked last night. They had to hike 10 kilometers to reach the evacuation point. Scott suggested the water would be faster. They need to build a raft. I wonder if building a raft is a bit of a waste of time. And then these high people thought they'd forget it. They decided to follow the belt of rocks. The rocky road is very difficult to walk. Hungry for so long, it's easy to slip and die. They see a lot of bamboo here, so they decided to make bamboo rafts to travel the water. Cutting bamboo is relatively simple. Making bamboo rafts is much simpler, as long as your brain hasn't been soaked in water. They soon built a bamboo raft, pushed the raft into the water. Frank wasn't sure he could handle the weight of 3 people, but I'm sure it can hold Julia's weight. They just pushed Julia down the water. It's been over 7 hours, and it hasn't arrived yet. There's a lot of debris on the water. Soon they came to the shore. Every evacuation takes place without incident. 3 hippies went hungry and won the $100,000 prize. So who else is going to be here next time? Look forward to an update in the next video.